Welcome to Fox and Robyn Recording. Today we got a new video on what makes a good studio. Okay, like I said in our intro here, I was thinking about and watching some other videos on this as well, but mostly thinking about what makes a good studio. I've been optimizing my own studio. I've been helping others kind of optimize and build out theirs. I've also done some podcast studios. I've also been doing some like live integrations in the venues and stuff, and I kind of thought to myself, what makes a good studio? You can turn any room into a studio, a bedroom, a living room, a dining room, kitchen, closet. I'm actually doing that. I might do a video on that too. I'm turning a closet right now into a studio. There's so many rooms that you can take and turn into studios. And I kind of thought to myself, what makes a good studio? What makes it good? And there's kind of a top 5 that I have. We'll start with number 1. Number 1 is the space itself. What makes a good space? What makes a good studio? So the first thing that makes a good studio is its space. The size and dimensions, ventilation also helps. If you have good ventilation, that also helps in the space that you're using. Is it square, rectangle, octagonal? Does it have a weird L cutout? You know, all these things kind of factor into what makes a good space. So as the first thing, like I said, the size and space is what helps make it good. Ours is very large. Well, our control room / recording space is quite large, and we can hold a lot of people. So if you want to hold a lot of people, that's something to think of. If you're building like a podcast studio, you might want to think about that. If you're building just a voiceover room, you may not need as much space if you're just doing voiceovers, or you're just playing keyboards and singing, like singer-songwriter stuff. You may not need such a large space. So that's kind of the number 1 thing to think about is the size. Number 2, as I move on here, number 2 is obviously the gear. What kind of gear are you putting in that space? Do you need a mixing console? Do you need speakers? Are you just doing voiceovers where you might only need a pair of headphones and an interface? What kind of interface are you using? Do you need 2 inputs, 8 inputs, 24, 64, however many you might need? It's all things to think about. Do you want expandability? Do you want to be able to record drums? Are you a drummer and you're building a drum room? You might want to have something that's got at least 8 inputs if you're doing that. If you're doing voiceovers and podcasting, you may only need maybe 2 or 3. Especially if you're doing podcasts, you might need up to 4. But if you're just doing the voiceover stuff and it's just you or you and another person, you might need 1 or 2 inputs. You know, it just depends on what you're thinking. But that factors in a good studio is the gear that's in it. And kind of going into number 3 really quickly. Number 3 is cable management. That makes a huge factor in studios. If you have cables running everywhere and it's messy all the time, and you've got mic pre's plugged into compressors, or you know, you just have this microphone plugged in over here and you've got cables running across your floor, you can trip over them. Just that kind of, what's making cable management good is that people aren't tripping over things. You know, using cable ties, Velcro. We use a lot of Velcro ties here. I've got them everywhere. They're all over the space here to keep things tight and needy. Input snakes, like drop snakes that have multiple inputs. Like if you're doing a drum room thing and you need a bunch of inputs at your drums, instead of running a bunch of lines, you can buy a fairly inexpensive snake. Gator makes one right now that I think is like $150, $200, something like that, that has 8 inputs. That's all you need is 8 inputs. You don't need a bunch of outputs. You just need some inputs because it's just you and drums. You can get them very inexpensively now. So things that keep cables, I'm constantly redoing our cable management here to optimize it and make it better. But there's things like LTT has their magnetics system where you just magnets hold things together. You do cable ties. I generally stay away from zip ties just because if you ever have to move something, now you have to clip a bunch of zip ties. Or Velcro, you can just undo a bunch of Velcro and you can reuse the Velcro. And Velcro is just as cheap as zip ties. So I generally, unless I'm doing something that's permanent and it's not ever moving, I generally don't use zip ties. If I'm doing something permanent and we're mounting it to a wall and it's going to stay there forever, I'll use the zip ties that have the little screw hole in them where you can screw them to a wall and then zip tie them so things don't fall off. And those are great. I actually like those a lot. Hooks work well too. That's number 4, is how well everything is kept clean. So hooks, it kind of goes with cable management, but hooks for headphones, guitar stands for guitars, and those types of things also help keep things nice and neat. And then the fifth thing that I'm going to go into here, and these last three kind of all tie together, but the fifth thing is storage. Do you have storage? I use actually an old dresser. That's one of my storage units that I have in the studio. Here's an old dresser, and I've got a drawer for mics, a drawer for cables, a drawer for odds and ends, a drawer for tools, drawers for all sorts of things in here. I've got a headphone one. I've got bookshelves for books. What keeps your things tidy? Maybe you're limited on space and you can't have as many things. Find something that kind of works in your space that has, I've got one of these little cube ones off to the side here that has books and drawers, and it's got a little bit of everything in it, and I like those because you can store a lot in them. I've got one that's got hard drives in it. I've got one that's got miscellaneous cables, broken stuff, books, all that stuff that's kind of off to my right here. Or something else. IKEA makes a handful of things. Ottomans work great. I have an ottoman in here actually that right now has blankets in it actually, for drum kits and stuff. Like we want to blanket the drum kit, or build weird tunnels and stuff like that for kick drums, just things like that we use. So hopefully those 5 things kind of help you guys, and I'll kind of start over with, kind of give you a quick rundown here of what they are. Not quite starting over, but just a quick rundown. One being the size and what your space is in, whether it's a closet, a living room, dining room, kitchen, bedroom, whatever it might be. Or if you're building a space, that's also something to keep in. Just think about size and what you need. 2 is the gear that you're using, microphones, how many microphones you need, how many inputs, all that stuff. Do you need interfaces? What kind of interfaces? All that stuff kind of factors into. And then the last 3 are just basically tidiness. Cable management, storage, and just some stuff, hooks and stuff to hang, your headphones and stuff on when they're not being used. They kind of keep things out of the way. I generally find the best thing when I go to a studio is how clean it looks. When I walk into this space, how clean, how tidy. I look at those are the 2 things I look at: how clean and tidy it is, and what kind of equipment do we have to work with. Everything else can kind of, furniture and stuff is cool too. Having a comfy chair is nice. Having a chair that works for you. Those are all great things that kind of work well. But I just kind of noticed in my kind of travels and stuff that I've been working on lately that the best things that I come to find are those things: how clean it is and what kind of gear I'm working with. If I walk into a space that's super messy and the gear isn't working, like if I walk in and this thing behind me is not working, that's a bad day. I have to clean up, I have to figure out what's not working, and it's just makes things so much longer. So if you have a studio that's cleaner and everything's working properly and patched in, you're going to have a great day, and you're going to have more people come in. And that's what we're trying to do, is getting you guys to come into our space. So if you guys ever need any kind of recording, mixing, or mastering, feel free to go to our website, foxandrobynrec.com, and click links and stuff that we have in there. We have a blog in there. We have some stuff you can listen to. Just go check out our website. It's foxandrobynrec.com. And if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. I highly recommend you do. We have a lot of people that watch our channel, and a lot of people, they end up just hitting that click, they end up watching and not hitting the like and subscribe button or clicking anything else in our videos. So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Go make some music, and see you later.